Hello everyone, my name is Alina. I hold a master level degree in linguistics and I've been preparing students for IELTS for more than 10 years. And in this tutorial, we will learn the vocabulary which will help you to talk about housing, your home and your apartment. You will also be able to answer very common questions on the speaking part on IELTS, especially part 1 and part 2 questions. These questions are also very common on CPE exam, CPE core, as well as CPE academic, but the questions that we will take for this tutorial are real exam questions on IELTS. This tutorial is a perfect fit for those who are aiming at an upper intermediate level or band 6 on IELTS. If you are aiming at a higher band, please check the description box below to find the tutorial for your level. So first of all, let's take a look at this footage. Here you see a very typical housing that many Europeans live in. It's a very common type of housing across Europe as well as Asia and I guess across the whole globe. As you can see, it's a high building. It's a tall building. It has way more than just 1 or 2 stories or floors in American English, like a private house would. So this is called a high-rise building. A high-rise building like that usually consists of separately owned flats or apartments in American English. That's why such buildings are also called blocks of flats or apartment buildings in American English. Sometimes in American English you can also hear the word condo or condominium used a lot. A condominium or a condo is one building, or it can be a set, a group of buildings which also consists of separately owned apartments or flats. These apartments are owned separately, but the condo is considered as one unit, and condos or condominiums usually offer a wide range of amenities. Amenities are additions that you get in excess to basic needs, and the basic needs would be, of course, the sewage, the toilet, right? Heating if you live in cold climate, or for some people if the climate is too hot, then maybe air conditioning would be the basic need. But for example, internet access is an amenity. It's not the basic need. It's not water, right? Or it's not heating. So if the internet access is an amenity, such condos may have a swimming pool on site. They may also have a gym on site, which can be either free for people who reside in the condo, for residents of the condo, or you may need to pay a membership fee to access these amenities. Some amenities can also include a childcare facility or a childcare center or simply a childcare. So these are some of the amenities that condos or condominiums can offer to the residents. You can also refer to a flat or to a house you own, or even to a land that you own as your property. So if you own this property, if you bought it, or if you inherited it from somebody, from your parents, your relatives, then you are an owner. If it doesn't belong to you, but you rent it, you pay somebody to be able to live in a flat or in a house, then you are a tenant. A tenant rents property from the owner. And if the owner rents the property to a tenant, to somebody, then the owner becomes a landlord. So a landlord rents property to a tenant. Condominiums, blocks of flats, houses are usually located in a residential area, from the word to reside or to live permanently, because that's the area where people live permanently. It's a residential area, as opposed to the commercial use of land, where you mainly see business centers, you mainly shopping centers, shops, stores, you name it, or as opposed to the industrial area, where you may see factories, the industrial use of land. The advantage of living in a residential area is that it's usually quiet, so it offers the peace and quiet to its residents. It usually has a park where you can go for a walk, or you can go for a stroll, or you can stroll in a park. Sometimes residential areas have a dog park for you to be able to take your dog for a walk, or to walk your dog. So they may have dog parks or just parks, and they are usually green. They usually have lush greenery. Right? And since they usually are densely populated, they can be densely populated, or they can be sparsely populated. So densely populated, they have a lot of people living there, or sparsely populated, there aren't so many people living there. One more advantage of a residential area is that it's usually less polluted than the city center, because there are fewer cars coming into the residential area, especially if it is located near a subway station where people can use subways, right, where they can use trains, or there is a very well developed public transport opportunities, right? It can be the use of buses, maybe people can even cycle, right? And usually residential areas are walkable, so meaning that there are sidewalks, there are roads designated for people to walk. It's meant not just for cars. Right? So now let's see how we can use these words to answer a very common question on the first part of IELTS. So now let's try to use these words to answer very common questions on IELTS. So first of all, what type of housing do you live in? I live in a high-rise building. The 2-room flat that I rent is relatively small, but it offers everything that I need. We have a spacious kitchen. We have a well-decorated living room and a fully equipped bathroom. We also have a number of amenities that our condominium offers. For example, I can take advantage of on-street parking or a garage, and our child goes to a free childcare facility in our condo. Moreover, the area where I live is very quiet. Or you can say, several years ago, we used to live in the suburbs, but we have relocated to a city recently, and now we are tenants in a condominium. We are very content with the condo as it offers a wide range of amenities. I can take advantage of on-street parking free of charge, and there is a park nearby. And I have got into the habit of going for a stroll every weekend. So when you are a tenant, you need to pay rent. And rent can be high or low. If it's very high, then it's unaffordable. If it's low, then it's affordable, or you can say it's relatively affordable. Affordable rent. On top of rent, you need to pay for utilities. And your utility bill usually shows how much electricity and how much water you have used, and you need to pay for the use of the utilities, which is electricity and water and heating if you use heating. Right? So these are utilities and they are included in your utility bill on top of your rent, which can be affordable or unaffordable. Right? This can be one of the advantages. If your rent is affordable and relatively low, then it can be one of the advantages of living in your apartment, and this is also one of the very common questions on IELTS. What are some of the advantages of living in your flat or in your house? You can say, well, I'm very satisfied as the rent is very affordable and our utility bill is relatively low, despite the fact that we have 2 children who love to take long baths. Another very common question on IELTS is, what room does your family spend most of the time in? And you can say, well, we spend most of the time in the kitchen. It's the biggest room in our flat and it's very cozy and has a magnificent view of the river. This is also where I spend most of the time cooking, cleaning, chopping, and preparing food for the whole family. Another very common question is, what can you see out of the windows from your apartment or out of the windows where you live? And you can say, well, we are very lucky with the view. All of the windows in our flat overlook a dog park. So we can watch how people walk their dogs and simply go for a stroll or go jogging early in the morning. Or you can say, well, all that I can see out of the window is another block of flats. I truly wish that my flat overlooked a river so that I could see boats and canoes passing by first thing in the morning. Here we use the conditional sentence I wish, and then we need to use past simple because that's not a real situation. So I wish my flat overlooked a river. It doesn't overlook a river, it overlooks another block of flats. Another very common question: do you prefer to live in a house or in a flat? Do you prefer to live in a house or in an apartment? And here you can say, well, I used to live in a house in the suburbs, but recently we decided to relocate to a city because our daily commute took more than 2 hours when we lived in the suburbs. It was not only time consuming but also tiring or exhausting. So we decided that living in an apartment in a city is a better choice for us. Another common question on IELTS is, of course, the disadvantages of the place where you live, the disadvantages of your apartment or of your house. And you could say, for example, unfortunately, unlike many condominiums, the apartment building where I live doesn't offer any parking opportunities. We don't have a garage and we don't have a designated place for parking. Therefore, the only option that I have is street parking. Unfortunately, we live in a very densely populated area, so finding a parking place at the end of the busy day is nearly impossible. That's the biggest stress for me these days, and it drives me around the bend. Alternatively, you can mention something about the rent. For example, you can say, well, I wish the rent was more affordable, or I wish we had access to a park. I live in a really densely populated area where the air is polluted and there is virtually no place where I could go for a walk or where I could unwind, where I could stroll at the end of the busy day or on weekends. So really, if the rent was lower and if we had a park in the vicinity or in the neighborhood, it would be a perfect place to live. When you have an opportunity to use a conditional sentence during your speaking part of the exam, it would be perfect to show the examiner that you can use conditional sentences because the use of grammar, the wide range of grammar that you use, is at 25% of your score. So do make an effort to use this structure. Moreover, it's very easy to use it. All you need to use is basically past simple to refer to an unreal situation. You just need to remember that when you describe an unreal situation, you use the past instead of the present, even though you are talking about the current situation. Sometimes instead of asking about the disadvantages, the question may be, what would you like to change about the place where you live? Notice that the question itself prompts you to use a conditional sentence. So don't miss this opportunity if you haven't used this conditional sentence during your exam. Of course, you don't have to show the examiner many times. You don't need to use conditional sentence in every single answer. It is enough to show the examiner once during your exam that you can use conditional sentences, that you know how to use them. You don't need to try to make a conditional sentence answering every single question. It makes no sense. All you need to do is simply to show once, if you want twice, but there is no need for to do it more, that you know how to use it. So again, the question is, what would you like to change about the place where you live? And here you could say, well, the flat where we live now is not as spacious as the house where we used to live. So having 2 extra rooms would be ideal. It would give extra room for the kids to play in, and I would also be happy if we had a backyard. And I also miss having a backyard, because of course if you live in a flat there is no backyard. In the best case scenario, you may have a playground. So if you get these questions on the first part of the speaking section IELTS, the second part will be on a different topic. You'll not get the first and the second part of the exam on the same topic. Therefore, if you do get a cue card, describe a home where you live or describe a home where you would like to live, then you can simply use all the vocabulary. You can combine all the answers that we have just covered, and that will be enough for you to make a 2-minute speech that is needed for the second part of the exam. We will finish this tutorial for now, but if you have time, if you want to practice more, leave your descriptions of your home or the home where you would like to live in the comment section below, and try to use the vocabulary that we have covered in this tutorial. Best of luck, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.